guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I filmed a smoky eye, but I done a little bit of a twist on it. I added a bit of shimmer. If you wanted to see how I achieved this look, then please just keep on watching. So we've already moisturised and popped a little bit of eye cream on. I've just used the Kylie Skin Moisturiser and Eye Cream. Now I'm popping on a primer. This is Time Check lotion from MAC. So the lotion will hydrate the skin, but where it's slightly more mattifying, I'm putting it through the centre to make sure I don't get too shiny throughout the day. I'm then going in with Revolution's Define & Conceal Concealer over the eyelid. I'm putting a generous amount all over the eyelid, making sure I'm covering the inner corner as well. You want to make sure that you're covering any darkness over the inner corner and on the eyelids now, because you're not going to be able to go over and correct it once we've put the eyeshadow on. Then going in with a soft fluffy brush to buff that out. I'm using circular motions with a really light hand to buff the base out. You don't want to press too hard as you might make it patchy. I'm blending the concealer out towards the temples, meaning that when I blend my eyeshadow out, I can tie it into my bronzer, which will give the appearance of a lifted eye. I'm going in with the Stacey Marie Carnival palette, taking the darkest brown shade and this MAC fluffy brush. You want to use something that's quite dense just so you pick up an even amount of colour. I'm starting off with minimal product and I'm stamping on the outer corner just to get the colour off straight away. Then whatever's left on my brush I'll use to buff out. I'm taking my time layering the colour, going back and forth between my eyelid and the eyeshadow. I'm using a really light hand and keeping most of the colour over the outer corner. This is just so it gives the appearance of a lifted eye. Once you're happy with how intense the colour is through the socket, you want to start taking that same colour over the lid. You can see we've evenly distributed the colour all over the lid, but kept the inner corner completely free of any product. Then for the same on the other eye, the reason why I'm starting with the darkest colour first is just because I find with a smoky eye it's easier to work from the bottom up. You get more of a seamless blend this way. The best advice I can give for anyone that's trying a smoky eye for the first time is to start with minimal product on your brush and just really lightly layer the products and completely be patient with it and just take your time and just trust the process. Then going in with a clean fluffy brush, I'm going to start blending this colour out. So I'm using this soft mid-brown shade on the outer corner and really lightly using feathering motions, tapping this colour on to blend the darker shade out. I'm going back and forth between the colour in my eyelid. I'm making sure that each time I tap my brush into the eyeshadow, I'm hardly putting any pressure on the brush at all. If you're struggling to blend the eyeshadow out, you want to focus on how much eyeshadow you're potentially picking up and putting onto your brush and how you're holding the brush. You can see I'm holding my eyeshadow brush at the end. So the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to apply very minimal pressure. The closer you hold the brush towards the bristles, the more concentrated and the more pressure you will be putting on your eyelids, therefore making it harder to blend this colour out. Whatever's left on my brush, once I've blended it through the socket, I'm just flicking up towards the temples. You also can't forget about blending over the inner corner, so even though we've not put the darker shade there, we're going to take this mid-tone just to make sure that it's really nice and seamlessly blended. Now for the same on the other eye, we're stamping most of the colour off and then using circular motions to just buff that out. Even if you don't have colours that are exactly the same or brushes that are the same as mine, you can create the same effect by using the closest to what you have already. Once we're happy with that on both eyes, we're going to go back and forth now between the first colour and the second colour, just stamping it on to make sure that it's really intense. Building it up over the lid and through the socket, you can see I'm taking it a little bit further over towards the inner corner, but I'm still keeping that inner corner completely free of any colour. Even though my brush looks like it's absolutely covered in colour, when I'm tapping the brush into the eyeshadow, I'm only keeping the very tip of the bristles covered in product, just so then when I'm blending it out, it will be completely flawless. The more product you put over the brush, the harder you're going to find it to blend out. We're then going to smoke out the very outer corner of the lash line using the black shade and this short shader brush. So I'm tapping most of the product off over the lid, going about 1 millimeter above where the lashes are. I'm going as close to the lashes as I can as I get towards the centre of the eye. Then as I blend it towards the outer corner, we're slightly lifting it. This will again give the appearance of a lifted eye shape, so it will stop your eyes from looking quite droopy. If you want to, now would be the time to add black liner. The reason why I'm not using a liner is just because I find using an eyeshadow makes it look a little bit softer. Going back onto the other eye, you can see again, every time I'm popping the brush onto the eyelid, I'm always stamping majority of the colour off first, and then using flicking or buffing motions to then make sure that it's blended. With no additional product on my first brush that we used for the darker colour, I'm just patting over the crease to make sure that the black is blended in with the dark brown that we used. We're now going in with a shimmer, so this is a mid-tone golden shimmer. This looked really pretty. I was really happy with how this turned out. However, you can leave it completely matte if you want to. I'm using my finger just to pack the shimmer on, just because I find you pick up most of the product by using your finger. It makes it a little bit more intense, and I'm just patting it over the inner corner of the eyelid. And again, once I've got most of the colour off of my finger, whatever's left, I'm just tapping it over towards the centre of the lid. I'm then going to go back in with the black and just intensify that outer corner a little bit further, just to make it even more intense and sultry. Using Teddy Eye Kohl from MAC, this is, I would say, more of a dark bronze shade. I'm taking that through the tight line and the waterline. I've decided to use brown again because it's a little bit softer than black, but if you want it super intense, you can use a black eye kohl. I'm wriggling the pencil as close to the lashes as I can, just because I want it to be really intense under the eyes. If you find that using a pencil liner sometimes smudges and drops under your eye throughout the day, you can try using a gel liner, so just applying that with a brush. You'll have a little bit of time to blend it out, but once it's set, it will not move. So this is the second fluffy brush that we use to blend out that mid-tone brown. I've not got any more product on it at all, and I'm just looking up and wriggling it as close to the lashes as I can. You don't want the under eye to be harsh at all, so take your time whilst buffing out the liner underneath. I'm then popping mascara on. I'm putting quite a generous amount on, but I'm blinking it into the mascara wand. I find that if you wriggle the brush, it's more likely to go clumpy. Not forgetting the bottom lashes as well, because obviously where we've smoked it out, you don't want the lashes to get lost, so you want to make them nice and black before we then go ahead and pop some false lashes on. After my mascara, what I'll normally do is pop my glue on my lashes before I then start my skin. So I'm going in with Studio Fix Fluid all over, building the coverage up to quite a full coverage. The best way to build up a full coverage without it going cakey is to apply thin layers and just build as you go. And I find that instead of building up the coverage everywhere, I tend to just build it up where I need it most. All over the face I'll do one layer, and then I tend to just add another layer over my jaw where I have quite a few blemishes. Then going back in with my Revolution concealer, I'm building it up through the centre of the face. On the chin, along the jawline, and in between the brows, just so it's nice and bright. taken a clean fluffy brush to then blend that out. The reason why I'm using a fluffy brush is just because I have a little bit more control, especially when I'm blending under the eyes where we've already finished the eyeshadow. I'm hardly touching the skin, and as I'm blending it up towards the temples, I'm using the concealer to tidy up where we've winged out the eyeshadow. If you take away any chunk of the eyeshadow where we've blended under the eye, don't panic, just go back in with the brush that we used to buff out the eyeliner and just really lightly buff over the top, and it will make it nice and flawless and seamless again. Once that's blended out, I'm just tapping over my skin with my foundation brush to make sure that it's blended, and then popping some lashes on. This is just a cheap pack of lashes that I found off of Amazon. They're quite natural, so I've just stacked 2 pairs together to make them really full and fluffy. I'm then going in with a cream contour. This is just a pre-made concealer palette from MAC. I'm taking 2 shades, mixing them together and just tapping very small amounts to begin with, and then buffing it out with my foundation brush. I'm keeping most of the colour at the top of the cheekbone, making the cheeks look more structured. Slowly bringing it down towards the cheeks to keep the colour flowing through the centre of the face. You can't forget about the cheeks and the nose. You might find that because you've got quite a dark eye, you might feel washed out, so popping a little bit more bronzer on than usual won't hurt. You want to start blending from the top of the ear down towards the corner of the mouth, following the natural structure of your cheekbone. If you bring the bronzer or the contour colour lower than the cheekbone, you will defeat the purpose of contouring and your face won't look as structured. Whatever's left on the brush, blending it back from our eyeshadow in towards our temples. Not forgetting to go along the jawline, covering the ears and the forehead. If you've got a smaller forehead, you can keep the bronzer just to the temples. Then contouring the nose, I'm taking that same colour, just tapping it along either side of my nose to give it a little bit more of a shadow. Using the same foundation brush we've been using, I'm taking the very tip of the brush to make sure that I don't remove the structure that we've placed there. If you find that your foundation brush is a little bit too full, a little bit too thick, you can use an eyeshadow brush or a beauty blender to buff this out. Then taking the contour even further, I'm using Laura Mercier translucent powder and just carving out and baking underneath my cheekbones and either side of my nose. Whatever's then left on my sponge, I'm taking under the eyes really lightly just to make sure the concealer doesn't crease throughout the day, and in between my eyebrows where I get oily. Then we're moving on to brows. I'm using this NYX Micro Brow Pencil, brushing my brows through to begin with, and then really lightly filling them in. The reason why I haven't done my brows first is just because the eyes are really intense, so I want to keep the brows really natural and fluffy. Using NYX Tinted Brow Mascara to just fluff the brows up a little bit more and add a little bit more colour and texture. Using my foundation brush without any more product on it, I'm really lightly dusting away the powder that we've popped on before. Popping on a bit of blush. This is just Deep Throat from NARS and the same brush that we've used for everything else on the face. Keeping it on the apples of the cheeks and buffing it back towards the bronzer. Now it's time for my favourite part, the highlighter. This is just soft and gentle mineralised skin finish from MAC, and I am tapping that over the top of the cheekbones. Put in hardly any pressure just to make sure that your highlighter isn't just one streak down the side of your face. We want the inner corner highlight to be nice and intense, so I'm taking Vanilla Pigment from MAC. If you don't have this, you can use white or any really light shimmery eyeshadow just to make the inner corner pop. I'm just using a very small pencil brush. If you don't have a pencil brush, you can use your pinky finger or even a cotton bud, as long as it's something small enough to fit over the inner corner without disturbing the rest of the eyeshadow. Then lastly, lips. I've already got a little bit of Vaseline on, so that liner is sliding on a little bit easier than normal. So this is just stripped down liner from MAC. I'm starting on the Cupid's bow, slightly overdrawing it, and then as I'm coming down to the corner of the mouth, I'm just lining to my natural shape. As I'm coming down the side of the mouth, I'm almost keeping the pencil on an angle so it naturally blends as I'm filling in the lips. Going underneath, starting in the very centre and then connecting to the corners of the mouth where we've lined the top of the lip as well. When lining the lips, I'm keeping the centre of the lips completely free of any colour. This just creates a little bit more dimension. Then to finish off, just a little bit of a gloss. I love the way that this look turned out. I hope you guys all enjoyed watching. Let me know in the comments below what you would like to see next.